Hi, super excited to be here. I am Ankit. I lead product management AI at Dell. I am also mentoring a lot of early stage startups with Antler VC, MIT Hack Nation, and Founder Institute. So, what I'm going to talk about today is based on my experiences, both on the enterprise side and working with cutting edge startups on the AI side. And the topic that I have is that there's a lot of hype on AI. There's a lot of hype on agentic AI, and I've been working in this space for the last 10 years before AI was called AI. It started with ML, machine learning, natural language processing, and now it's called AI and agentic AI. In my experience, how does it work? And what are the things that we need to take into account when we think about this agentic AI implementation? The topic that is very close to my heart is experience led AI. So I'm going to talk about that today and would love to get some inputs from the audience, what they feel about it. Okay. So one of the things that I'm going to start with is that we have heard a lot of statistics on AI. And one of the ones that caught my attention is at the top that says 40% of the agentic AI projects will be canceled by 2027. And it says very clearly the failure is in the foundational models. It's actually going to be in an architecture. And I agree with that statement because a lot of times what you would see is when we start implementing AI, it's a kind of a bolt-on strategy. We have our legacy tools, we have our legacy systems, and we are trying to put AI on top of it, while we have not taken a step back and thinking about our end-to-end ecosystem and saying that, okay, how do we redesign the systems for AI? So what you see on the left is a lot of silos tools which don't talk to each other, don't have a shared data foundation. They were constructed in the past based on how they were serving a very minute outcome for the customer, but was not connected from an end-to-end journey. But if you really have to take a step forward and get into an agentic motion, you have to think about this ecosystem end to end, wherein you have in the middle is the AI layer, wherein you do the diagnostics to understand what the problem is. You guide the agents to make sure they understand, okay, this is how you solve the problem. And then the agentic part of it is where the agents actually take the action on the behalf of humans and make this end to end journey possible. To make it happen, the other thing you need to have is a shared data foundation. And the most key important thing is to have a closed loop feedback loop so that these systems are learning in itself. And it's not like if something goes wrong, it takes a lot of time for models to improve. So I'm going to spend a lot of time on this ecosystem architecture and how this is important from an experience led design and how this is going to be super critical as we go into AI models, deploying AI models either at the enterprise level or at a startup. If you have a startup that you're working on, um, we need to rethink our architecture in the agentic mode, and this will help a lot. So if you have to think about from an experience-led AI framework, and I write a lot on this, is first you need to take a step back. What you need to start with is the customer journey. So you need to define what experiences you're trying to achieve, what's the problem the customer has, and let's just map it down. And I'll give you an example or one of the scenarios that we are working on. Once you have defined the whole resolution experience, then you need to go and do a very strong audit of your data. You need to figure out what are the data that is currently available to achieve that outcomes. Is it there? Is it not? Is the data fragmented or siloed? Or is there a shared data foundation that can feed all your data models? The third one that you need to do is look from a closed loop AI engine. So the AI engine one has to talk to the AI engine two and AI engine three, and then measure the success. And when I say measure the success, you have to measure it at the ecosystem level, not at the specific tools level. So what we see in today is a lot of people, a lot of leaders will say, "What, where can I deploy AI, or what AI can do for me?" I think the right question to ask is, what resolution experience must we deliver? What is the end customer asking? And how do I enable my AI to help me with that? So that will help us a lot from going from when Gartner says that, hey, 40% to, and there are different reports wherein they go to 60 and 70% of the agentic AI things will fail. What we really need to understand is go back to the drawing board from an experience led design. understand from customer experiences and then kind of define our AI framework. This is something that Steve Jobs used to talk a lot about it. Like, hey, I don't want technology to be bolt on and be a solution to the problem that I don't know. So we need to start with the problem and then come back to the solution and say that, okay, is AI the right solution? And sometimes, honestly, the good old technology is good enough. You don't even need AI. So what we need to do is lead with this experience, the end customer, and then go back and talk about how we can um, figure out how the AI technology framework works. So I'll give you an example. I think when we talk about end-to-end experiences, what it really means. I work at Dell Technologies, so I'll take a experience of a laptop. A lot of times when you are kind of your laptop is not working, you the only thing you really want is to make sure that the laptop starts working again because your life depends on it. Either you're working on it or you're basically working on a personal project. You want to make sure that it starts working again because now there is a disruption in the workload that you had. So there are multiple experiences you can map it out from an end-to-end journey that the customer is going through, and then deploy your AI solutions. The first would be instant self-resolution, which is more like, hey, I'm searching on the website. I don't know how to reset my password. You get the information and you get done through it. The other one would be guided first contact resolutions, wherein the agent it's telling you, in this case, an AI agent is understanding the problem. Hey, I want to understand. I ordered a part. I don't know where it is, and it gets resolved in one call. Right. There is also the magical experience, proactive prevention, wherein what we do it is we look at the information that is there available in the laptop or telemetry and say that, hey, I think this things is falling apart. Before the customer reaches out to me, I can just reach out and kind of give it and help the customer out. That is more of a proactive prevention. And then you have complex escalation wherein there are some issues that cannot be solved by an AI agent right now because it is very complex. You need to have the context. How do you enable that? The AI agents try to solve it. If they can't solve it, they transfer it to a human agent. And then the human agents has all the context so that you don't need to explain that again. And the final one is the post-learning resolution, wherein you go through the entire journey and see what an AI agents can do better. The same way we do it for humans, right? When we are doing some project, we basically go through the cycle and then say, okay, what did I did right? What did I do wrong? From a start, stop, continue, and then go about it. So those are the five experiences. I've just given an example of how it can work in a contact center, which can roughly covers 80% of the volume. But any AI project that you're doing, I would start with the whole customer journey, map out what are the key moments that really matter for the customer, and then figure out if I have to enable these outcomes, how do I do that? This will help a lot for you to understand the pain points what the customer is having, and then deploy your AI solution, proactive AI solution that you want to do. And at the bottom, you should also have is this shared data foundations that I talked about, because a lot of times if you don't have a canonical data model which is common across all, what's going to happen is the one AI engine will not talk to another AI engine, and then this will result in fragmentation and a very fragmented experience for the end customer. And this is another example wherein I'm going to talk about the different AI engines taking the customer care experience again into this. A lot of times when we are working on a laptop, you would hear that the fan is moving really fast. How the proactive AI works in this case is that you get the telemetry from the information from the AI agent is looking at it, his understanding. Wait, the hard drive is moving really fast. Let me check all the drivers. If the drivers are failing, let me see if we need to replace the hard drive, and guide the AI agent to first check all the policies and then do the action. This is um, in this case becomes a whole agentic AI experience wherein the customer didn't even know what was happening. Customer said that all I knew was that, hey, my hard drive is moving too, or basically the fan is moving too fast, and I'm hearing a lot of noise. But the system is able to test itself figure out what it is wrong and help the customer out without even human coming into the picture. So that's an example wherein you can do agentic AI, but you need to map it back to the end experience that you're trying to achieve, and then come back and say, okay, this is how I'm going to solve it for the end customer. Now, the other thing I would spend a lot of time is figuring out the ecosystem matrix rather than the matrix for the individual AI tools. A lot of times I look at is the learning velocity. Is once you have deployed, which is the number three on the slide, is once I've deployed an AI solution, how fast it is solving the problem that I intended it to, and is the problem coming up again? Um, as I feed in more context, is the system getting smarter or not? The other one is very critical, and a lot of people don't think about it, is the ecosystem leverage ratio. This is where we see that if I invest $1 in one AI capability, what's the corresponding or the adjacent capability that can improve? That helps us to enable whether the whole ecosystem is working together, and you're looking at the end customer, and making sure the end customer problems are being resolved and there is a resolution on that. Lastly, I think a lot of leaders would talk about there's a lot of um, fear in the system, and you would hear a lot of leaders talking about it. Okay, I trust AI, but I don't trust AI. How do I make sure that the systems that I am deploying are trustworthy? And the answer is not that simple, right? I mean, the analogy that I give to everybody is like AI is like a kid. Once you have a kid, you need to teach them things, you need to teach them concept, but there has to be a guardrails that enables you to make sure you take the control, which in this case is human on the loop or human in the loop, when things are going wrong. And the way I think about it is, and I've written an article on this, is the first is the structural integrity. Whenever you're deploying an AI solution, an AI agent in an enterprise environment or in your startup, you need to have a layer of circuit breakers. What the circuit breakers really do it is if the system gets an anomaly, they really break down and actually push the human to take the decision. So, for example, if let's say there was an big software update that Microsoft did, and that is resulting in a lot of issues, the AI agent would not try to solve it because AI agent might not have that information in the knowledge base, and a human might have to do that research before AI chatbots tries to solve it. Because if an AI chatbot tries to solve it, it might have an older information and might push and solve the wrong problem for the customer. So you always need to have circuit breakers. The second thing I always put in all our AI systems is semantic correctness, which is reasoning consistency with evidence. So you always double check what AI is doing. You have the ground truth, and you make sure the way you think about your kids, you always check your homework. You need to ensure is that, hey, if the agent is saying X, what is the evidence I am getting um, from other systems to say whether the agent is giving me the right recommendation? I would basically take an example. A lot of times when Microsoft is a good example. Microsoft always asks you for telemetry, like they say that, hey, I want to send the data to Microsoft to improve their products. The reason why they're doing it is to understand more about your usage and train their AI systems. The reason for that is if they get data from you which is incoherent to what the AI agent is telling, they will try to train their models. And that is the semantic correctness or the evidence. It's like a detective. You're trying to collect evidence and seeing does it matches my AI agent recommendation, and if it is not, I need to fix my system. The third one, I've not seen that often, but is very important from a pyramid of trust so that we can trust the AI agent is the outcome verification. We need to make sure that we reward our AI agents the same way we reward humans. If an issue was supposed to be resolved by an AI agent and it is not, or the work that you are planning to do is not, you actually ding the agent. So there is a reward function that you can create that can say that, hey, I told you to do this, but the problem still exists in 7 days. So I'm going to ding you for that. And that way, it becomes a reinforcement learning function for the agent to make sure that they are understanding that, okay, I did a bad job. The same way you do it for a kid, hey, today you didn't complete your homework, so I'm going to ding some marks for you. Similarly, as you think about your AI agents and you're deploying them, think about how you're going to do outcome verification. How do you going to make sure that the agent is proposing the fix and it is able to do that. And lastly, I think this is the blueprint. I'll leave it everybody with you is if you go back and think about how you're going to deploy your AI agents, first, I would start with the end-to-end experience, the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. Then go and talk about the data foundation. What is the data layer that you want to talk about? Make sure that it is very clear, your data structure, the ontology is very clean so that everybody understands and all age AI agents can tap into the shared context layer and are able to change information with this. A classic example would be um, I think OpenAI started with this was this whole memory integration wherein they started learning more about you. Now, everybody has done it. Claude has done this and everything. But that foundation layer, the memory helped us a lot to agents to become much smarter. They were able to personalize better. And it was because of the foundation. A lot of times you would have seen in OpenAI and Claude where they say AI can make mistakes, but give us feedback. That is basically closing the loop. Yeah. How do you design a capability and then get feedback from the humans or the customers who are using your products to say that, hey, was I able to solve your problem? If not, let me do that. And institute a governance and guardrails in your agent. So if something goes wrong, as I talked about the pyramid of trust, you can do a circuit breaker, pass it to a human. A human can review the progress and kind of make a decision because there is a lot of work that humans will have to do from a judgment perspective, and AI breaks down, and AI will break down. And the final thing I would say is that measure the ecosystem would be the 5 things that you should think about as you kind of deploy your AI solutions into either the enterprise environment or in a startup as if you're working on a project as you deploy it. At the end, I would basically leave you with a quote which says that the organization that win with AI won't deploy the most tools. They will build the ecosystem where each capability compounds the value of every other. So think about it from an ecosystem experience perspective and how you know you can compound. This is the same way Warren Buffett talks about compounding, right? Each investment he does is a part of a bigger ecosystem that he's trying to construct for himself. And there is a compounding effect wherein each the investment one is helping investment two, and they're talking to each other, have the shared context, and have the compounding impact on the wealth.